Right, look, this new route now. So you arrive in the back of a lorry via Spain into places like Portsmouth. What does this mean when it comes to your human rights, your ability to claim asylum? Because this lot are, from what I can gather, actually really desperately trying to avoid any detection, whereas the Channel migrants don't really care.
Well, it could mean two things, one or two things. The first one would be they can just normally claim asylum and go through the channels and then be either released or be shipped to a hotel or even detained. Or it could be the fact that the news of the deterrent that you might be put on a barge or sent to Rwanda has got out. And a bigger deterrent, obviously, the tragic incident that happened in the channel, that there's a loss of life. And that people are saying, well, hold on, we don't want to pay to be sent to Rwanda or end up on a barge. So therefore, we'd pay extra if you can get us into the UK undetected. Now, that would be very interesting to see how that works, especially with border security and especially the methods that they have to detect people in lorries. I mean, the last time I was aware of any sort of detection in lorries, the border force actually had a mechanism, had a device where they could put it in a lorry and sense if anyone was breathing in there. So that's how tight security is there. But if the gangs have managed to bypass a way through, then surely it would indicate, well, hold on, their network is very sophisticated. It still wouldn't stop people from claiming asylum. People would still go asylum. So therefore, the pull factor to come to the UK hasn't been deterred, clearly, and the rates have gone up. And what's happened is the deterrent might have worked in an opposite way. So it might have happened that there's more people now willing to pay, but pay a higher price for a better product as such. And if that happens, then clearly the barge and Rwanda have just been flops.
Well, neither of them have actually happened yet. I mean, the barge happened for about 3 days, for about 39 people, and then it turned out it might have been deadly for a bit, but now it's not. But it is a gift, of course, to people who are claiming that it would be.
Paying for it.
Oh, of course, obviously we're still paying for it. We will pay for everything, won't we? I mean, that's what we do. We'll pay for all sorts, and we'll pay the French even more. But back to the matter in hand, Harjap. Would I, as somebody who has paid a human trafficker to get on a dinghy and get across the channel, have exactly the same case for asylum as I would if I'd have paid a human trafficker to put me in the back of a lorry and send me here via Spain?
Yeah, you probably would have the sort of same claim. The fact people have been paying to come to the UK, paying smugglers for ages, for at least the past 20 years since I've been looking at them. Even in 2000 and 2001, 2002, people used to come and say, well, we've paid, and tell immigration, we've paid X amount of person, an agent or a people smuggler, so X amount of money to come here. The rates change, the routes relatively don't change. French coast to Kent coast is the most obvious one. This is a new route, obviously, from Spain to what they're saying to the English coast. So they would have a claim for asylum. It would probably diminish their claim if they then said, well, hold on, we were safe in France, but we decided to come here out of choice. And, we decided to come here for economic reasons. That would diminish their claim.
Well, you would hope so, but it doesn't seem to be happening. Go on.
Yeah, asylum seekers still, by law, have a right to apply for asylum in the country of their choice. If they've claimed asylum in another third country, we used to have something called a Dublin Convention, where we could send them back to that country. So say if one of these asylum seekers had claimed asylum in Austria and then thought, right, I want to head off to England, then we had a system called Eurodac.
Yeah, were we doing that, though? This is the thing, isn't it? But were we really doing that a huge amount? And also, wasn't there a thing about for the very first country, the very first country the safe country that you'd passed through? But then, of course, that was kind of nullified a bit with the open borders, which allowed them to then just continue to pass through every other country. I mean, it's a good point that you make there. I mean, from your perspective, whilst we legally might have been able to return people more easily, were we actually doing that?
This is the key question. You've hit the nail on the head. The figures for the Dublin Convention were relatively low. They weren't really in the thousands or the tens of thousands that they should have been. But the facility was there. Now, that's the key. Now we haven't got the facility because the European countries today, well, actually for the last 3 or 4 years, they blatantly told us when no EU country is signing a deal. Last year, every single EU country told UK, we're not going to sign a returns agreement. It's your problem. The people that land on your shores or in your waters are your problem. So that bit is very clear. Whether Labour can renegotiate something is something different. But what is interesting is, as Christopher says, and very learned guest, and it was really great listening to him actually. What he says is Labour might be able to do things better because remember what we always talk about, the figures, and the proof is always in the figures. In 2009, Labour, with the same mechanism, was sending back 60,000 people a year. Now, 50,000 people coming a year isn't a problem if you're sending 60,000 back. That number has whittled, Patrick, to even before Brexit, to 2015 to 5,000 enforced removals. Last year, 3,000 enforced removals. So 50,000 people are coming last year on small boats, and you're only sending 3,000 back. You've got a 47,000 surplus. If you could send back 50,000 a year, it probably wouldn't matter. Your net migration, it wouldn't affect it because 50 are coming in, you're sending 50 back. So the key is the returns here.
No, it is. And let's be honest, we might be about to find out what Labour will do in that situation at some point within the next year or 18 months. Harjap, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Harjap Singh Bhangal there.